What are you two people joining? I'm a League of Legends coach. We do League of Legends coach things like reviewing today G2 Esports against Koi, and we've got a lovely cup of coffee that we will hopefully enjoy while reviewing that. So let's just jump right in. And as always, doing these reviews live on stream, so check out the stream in case you have any questions. Otherwise, G2 against Koi, what do we think? We're seeing Yike. We're praying that it's not Maokai. Maokai already banned. Oh, that makes me so happy. I want to see Yike on carries. I think Yike is completely correct. Koi, in my opinion, have been performing kind of okay, but also not that great. Not really that sure about the support change and about specific other things in a theme, for example, how they currently approach jungle. But let's see how Koi might actually be able to change that a little bit to perform a bit better. Either way, right? Approaching this round, what are we thinking about? Well, it looks like G2 doesn't like the Yuumi road, right? Which you usually saw on red side being banned. So you have the option of having the Seri Yuumi option early on, right? Emilio banned, Luplon, Maokai is something that is getting banned a lot against Yike, and for me that is nice because I really like seeing Yike on carry, right? So whenever I see that, please give Yike a carry. Vibing against Malrang, and then the Draven ban against Hansama, right? We've got the 3 Draven players now in the LEC basically, with Fleckit, Patrick, and Hansama, and a lot of AD carriers usually do not enjoy playing against Draven, right? So that getting banned out makes a lot of sense. And I was about to say, what is still open? Well, out of the bottom picks, that's kind of restricted. Like, I know people have a high priority on Aphelios and Xayah, right? But for me, that might be a little bit bait, right? But Milio and Yuumi are out, partially Draven as the target ban. Maokai is out. One of the statics mid laners is out. What is really still up, right? And Nico is one of the bigger champions that is still up. And G2 decides to interlock it, right? It might be flex pick, but sadly, it doesn't get flexed nearly enough in my opinion. I think it's a really valid jungle. I really like having it as a flexible option, but people don't flex it, and that makes me a little bit sad. Well, how do you counter Nico in case it's mid? In case it's mid, for me, in all terms of mid section, what I'm always looking for is either having the option to threaten enemy mid laner, right? So we can look to play from mid like that, or the option to just have push, right? So do we win? Isolate 1v1 in terms of push, right? So my mid laner gets enabled, or by being able to threaten. Problem is Nico is really hard to threaten, right? She's a very, very safe champion. Because of her W, her ult makes it not that easy to play onto her. So usually what we're looking for picks against Nico is picks that get push, right? So usually control mages, especially the ones that we've recently seen, might be interesting. Larssen does play Victor, these sort of champions. Z is something we have seen more recently, so that might be something we see. AD carry pickup is usually also something we see, right? So most of the time, our 1 or 2 is going to be AD carry plus jungle, but if Nico is being picked and it's not a flex pick, might already pick some mid lane champion here. Aphelios being picked, I feel like on red side is fine, right? But they are counters to Aphelios, and I don't think Aphelios necessarily is good against Nico either, because he doesn't have that much high range. Might need to walk in, so you can potentially punish that. And it is just the Azir, which I think is fine, right? You're able to get push. You've got a decent front and back comp already going on with Aphelios and Azir. Problem is, I think you might be prone to getting outranged, right? So that is something that you might just end up picking up here as G2, right? An outranging composition. Yeah, Kaz is also talking about it, right? Koi definitely gonna go to front and back. How do you win against front and back? Well, you win against front and back by making sure they have to engage onto you, right? So options that you get push in mid, either by having a catch, usually by either having better push, right, or having an advantage, and that can be through catch, that can be through better side laning, right? Or of course compositions that outrange. Ooh, Velvet is interesting. I'd love to see it. I doubt they will pick it. It's just Brown Kokmo again. It's just Brown Kokmo again. And I don't mind that. Why do I not mind that? Well, you're outranging. Kokmo has quite a high range. That I do not mind at all, right? And now you're kind of in the idea of, well, if they're outranging with Kokmo, are we still gonna pick champions that can potentially engage, right? Like something that is a which is countered by the Braum, right? Or are we gonna go for the round of champions that counterpick Braum, like Enchanters potentially, but then we're gonna hyper carry Aphelios, but might struggle against enemy composition, right? What I would like to see, and I think something that is entirely underdone, is actually going for like poke sort of champions in bot lane against Braum. So previously we've seen a lot of Ashe and Heimerdinger, not as good anymore. but champions that going to enchanters that going to the poke route might be a decent option. Kadra is talking about Feli's Lulu, Feli's Rakan. Feli's Lulu does go sort of into the direction of partially a little bit body and is a good lane, right? But now we're hyper carrying in the Felis that might get outranged. And we saw the Ash hover, which is quite interesting. I'm wondering if they're just going to go for supports here, or if they're going to take the time to think about it and just lock a jungle for Malrang. Because it's Malrang anyway, right? Might as well just lock jungle here. Yeah. Right? Then I feel like in a way, you're picking jungle here, and that also gives G2 less options to ban out jungles, right? But honestly, like if I was in Koi's position, I think I'd actually delay the pick and take more time to think. And although G2 already previously shown Kog'Maw Braum, it is a bit of a weird option. Giving yourself more time to think about what specifically you want to support kind of makes sense, right? So Malrang just jobbing, and now okay, we're thinking okay, we're going to a little bit of the engage direction and a little bit of an early game direction, which I don't think is necessarily bad, right? I think you can definitely go for it. The only problem is that Azir and Felis also don't quite enjoy engaging as much. I don't know, welcome to the stream, Strikebacker, Jarvan, Monka. You think it's that good? You think Strikebacker, Jarvan is that good? Okay, are we going to see poke? I mean, so Raka kind of goes into both directions. Are we just going to see Ash, right? We definitely see a lot of hover of these poke champions. Janna. Okay, now that shit is interesting. No? Okay, okay, never mind then. Janna is interesting. Why is Janna interesting? Because Janna is quite a good champion in the Braum, in my opinion, usually, right? I think you can poke her, she can poke a huge amount. She has a lot of control on Braum lanes. I feel like one problem that Janna does have is if you ever get hit by one Braum Q, I think you're completely doomed. But outside of that, it's an interesting pick, and I like seeing Janna because I used to play that champion a lot. I'm not sure if it's better than just something like Soraka or the champion into that direction though. I know she usually performs quite well in solo queue though. And you can still do some echoes of 3D gaming, which while it got nerfed a lot, right, it's still pretty OP. What would I pick up here? What would I play here against J4? I mean, I'm probably just going to the Kha'Zix route. But I'm cringe. Kisante, okay. Cool. I mean, if you're really cringe, you just put Nico into jungle, and you actually have that as a flex pick, and you pick a counter to your Azir mid lane. No, for fuck's sake, it's jungle again, man. Ooh, Kha'Zix. It's gonna. Ooh, let's go. Okay, the Kha'Zix shot I like. I feel like Kha'Zix is really good against Aphelios. I really like having Evolve W. You're very mobile, right? Against Jarvan engage, right? And if you're actually good and you don't go Q Evolve, which is completely unnecessary in most games, then you actually have a lot of kill threat into Aphelios as well, which is very nice. Because why is that very nice? Well, the second you have kill threat onto enemy backline, right? Now their champions that might need to engage you because you are outranging, right? Might need to peel you away from the backline, and that means they can't engage, right? But that's very nice, and I really like assassins not as like a proactive sort of option, right? But assassins for me take away options for the enemy, right? Now they need to think more about their ability usage. Now they are more restricted in how they play, and especially if you're outranging, having an assassin or a very dangerous flanking champion is a very good option, in my opinion. So I really like the Kha'Zix. Next to the fact that it turns out Kha'Zix W is really rough for compositions that potentially get outranged, right? And are not necessarily the best option to walk up. Aphelios hates Kha'Zix W. Yeah, Quen I've got a little bit of mixed feelings about, right? But I honestly don't mind it as much because I feel like Quen is one of the better ways to actually threaten immobile AD carries as well. I don't know how well she performs against Kog'Maw, who's usually itemizing quite tanky, right? But I actually quite enjoy Quen picks into champions like Aphelios, due to the fact that I think she has a lot of threat on these champions. Right, and now we're back into the idea that Quen is like sort of like an assassin in this sort of way as well, right? You can't easily walk up if Quen is on flank, because you need to defend your AD carry. Because the AD carry, like Aphelios, gets one shot. Which actually led me at points to actually believe that picking Kisante with Aphelios is bait, because it allows Quen Right, K'Sante's counters are champions that usually are quite good against the Felies, like Gwen. In my opinion, like Garen. And considering a top lane for me is usually a pick that is just there for actual team synergy, picking a champion that while it might be good for your team and good against the enemy team, but it allows specific picks to actually be to get played that might be better against your AD carry is something I thought a little bit about, right? In terms of if you have a Felius Kisana pick with Grand Open can be a little bit, right? Anyway, we've got Brom, we've got Cookmuff. What are we looking for? We're looking for some early game gaming, right? We're looking for anything we can. We're already scaling with Mikyx. Are we gonna see Devil Sweep it? And we're just gonna see very, very good vision. Because one thing to note is we've got Kazakhstan against Jarvan, right? And what is a very big difference? Well, Jarvan is a champion that can gank a lot early, and who are we playing against? Malrang wants to gank a lot early, right? So what do we do against that, right? What do we do against a champion that number one wants to gank early, and number two a player that wants to gank early? And it turns out we do three things, right? We get vision on where he is, we get vision on his pathing, and we get vision for lanes. Right? Basically in this order, right? It's best to know where Jarvan is, right? Then it's good to know where he paths, and then it's interesting to actually have wards for lanes. Yana's actually walking up quite a decent amount. I feel like level 1 Kokma Braum is actually quite disgusting. That is quite annoying. Kokma even doing dagger stars, so yeah, it has the exit potions to not get poked down and to play very, very aggressively. And that sounds kind of disgusting. Malrang does doing wolves into topside normal camps into red buff. Interesting. And Yike is now just invading bot side. I'm wondering if there's not just a better way to do it, but I guess Malrang puts himself in a very good position to contest his bot side camps here. Yike does end up getting it though. And now with Brom ramming up, you might be able to play for this Grumpy as well. Although Malrang has smites, I'm not that sure if it's that smart for you. I'm not sure if it's that smart for you. I mean, I don't necessarily mind to play either way, due to the fact that what do you need to do in case you play outscaling, which blue side sort of is. Red side doesn't scale bad, but I'm a big Kokmo enjoy. I think this champion is a bit broken. And compositionally, you're going to be stronger, right? If you look at champions, maybe not as much, right? But compositionally, I think blue side is going to outscale, right? So what do? We take away their options. So going for these sort of invades, even though they might cuck yourself a bit as Kazakhs, aren't necessarily that bad due to the fact that you take away their options. If you're already winning, if nothing happens, then maintaining this game state makes a lot of sense, right? So even though you might argue it might be better for Kaz to just farm up, rush his level 6 for his champion individually, if you're already winning, do you need to win even harder? And as long as nothing happens, you could argue that G2 is winning, right? So going for these sort of plays, in my opinion, isn't as bad. Even though one problem that usually exists if you go for these sort of plays is that you're going to fall behind in experience, right? And if you already have mid control and the idea is, okay, we need to be strong in terms of mid jungle to contest mid section, then the question is it smart for you to give Malrang an experience lead by him being able to cycle your camps while you aren't cycling your? Because I'm a Yike fanboy, I still like what Yike is doing. Yeah, I still think it's correct, by the way. Ooh, okay, Caps uses clearing to tank turret to walk up to cancel. That is really cool, actually. That is really cool, actually. Yike is farming up. Ooh! Oh, Yike, okay. And that is, I mean, I'm not sure if I can say it's Carsicus, but that's kind of ridiculous, honestly. Yike even flashes and he's not able to secure Malo. Aye. That is a little bit of a rough one. Yike really wants to clear down. I'm wondering if clearing down is actually better than just securing your bot side camps to a higher value. Play here starts very good for Yike. He's only gets by the Q, not by the EQ knockup. He's 60% HP on the fight side, and he doesn't have red buff, and he's taking a few wolves. So here comes Yike also doesn't have red buff, so that kind of feels a bit bad. I guess he wants to hit the W, and then if he hits the W, he can do auto Q and probably kills, but it's still a little bit of a risky play. But a little bit, I mean, it is a risky play, right? So I'm not sure if you really want to do that. We were stuck in replay for a long period of time. I guess I reckon because it just topside. And they had bot side control, I reckon, so they just ended up playing trade. Yike cross maps enemy reptiles because of the Drake play, sure. And Brom is very much keen on just denying a little bit of vision inside of the river. One thing that is interesting to me is that Brom and Kha'Zix play double sweeper, when I kind of see Nico already having control of lane, right? And when I see Nico with control of lane, by the way, Nico's so OP, the first item Azir buys is D-Ring, and then extra magic resistance. I hate this jump, right? But either way, right? For me, usually, if I already have control of mid, I'm not that interested in actually sweeping. I'm more interested in setting up vision. So I'm actually quite, it's actually quite interesting for me that Brom's still a sweeper, which I guess might be quite interesting for lane, right? Being able to sweep lane crushes, so you can fish them with use, which might not be possible otherwise, right? But if Yike also has sweeper, for me, is a little bit interesting. I'm wondering if they just have it because Brom just kept it from level 1. And Yike took it because he didn't have any wards up in the first place either. Anyway, right? So might as well swap the sweeper. But it is still interesting because usually, in my opinion, it's better to try to set up vision more than it is actually to deny vision. Yike placing some control with though. Right, so that is nice. That is good. Getting some extra information for you mid lane, right? We have push in mid. What do we want to do? We want to maintain push. And that is understanding how our mid laner can get threatened, and usually one of the best ways to do it is, of course, to scout vision. Malrang is looking for top side play. I'm not sure if I like that. Woo! Hey, BrokenBlade, man. There's a lot about that you can say about BB, man, but this guy is just still fucking great. Like, I don't care. And now Yike even potentially trying to dive. It is red, white, and fellies with summoners, but it just don't give a shit. Wait, that was a really easy dive. Let us watch that in one time speed. Okay, right? So I'm walking up to this play, right? I understand that you do have good dive options, right? For sure. But the way Yike is Q-Evolve, I hate it so much. I think I-Evolve is just so much better. Because I-Evolve allows you to threaten backline more easily, right? And because of that, I think it's just a lot more useful than Q-Evolve. Because if you're already in a winning game set, do you need extra objective damage? Probably not. Anyway, right? So let's watch this dive again. So just jump forwards. I mean, this is honestly a really easy dive. Did Advienne misplay? I mean, Advienne kind of fucked up his Q, I guess. I guess you could reckon he fucks up his Q, but his dive is still very easy. Rom still makes it very, very easy. I mean, G2 plays it well, but it was actually quite easy, wasn't it? Kog'Maw Brom actually made it very, very easy, you know? And that is partly related to Malrang actually being topside, right? And that's why I said I didn't really like it, because what is the chance of this play happening, and what does it allow for G2 to do on bot side? Maybe you didn't respect Kog'Maw Brom's strength as it's you early on, right? But I feel like especially after this specific play, you should really start respecting it. Like, that was a really easy dive. I actually didn't think Combo Advienne had any counterplay there. And you could say Advienne could maybe use his Q differently. But I don't think it matters. Like, I feel like Mikyx is always gonna die, and then they're just gonna kill you. Jarvan has got Herald, right? Which I reckon he might just use onto Fellies to get some economy in, even though you play against pretty annoying from the back composition, right? So maybe Double Herald onto mid is interesting, but the question is if you're gonna get Double Herald. Probably not, right? So you're probably just gonna Herald onto Fellies. But are you ever gonna have a wave state where you can... I'm sorry. Are you ever gonna have the wave state where you can Herald for Fellies is the question. Hello, hello, welcome to the stream, Eric. Welcome, welcome. Caps has Mythic, probably, right? Oh, he doesn't. I know, man. I am blind. I am blind. But he's getting his base. I mean, how do you approach the rest of the game, right? Because Malrang is in a position where he needs to find plays. Where are you gonna find plays? And actually, looking at mid side, Azir does not seem to be a good pick, right? Because in draft we've heard about, or rather what I talked about is, against Nico you really want to champion against push into her, because enabling against Nico is really hard because his champion is so safe, right? Enabling is about threatening, if we can't threaten Nico, how do you enable, right? So that is the point where we're thinking about, okay, can we get Malrang to level 6 easier, right? But even with him having level 6, right, is Nico gonna be that scared? Probably not as long as she has flash. And do you have the time to go for multiple plays onto mid? Questionable, right? So looking at how mid lane is going, probably not the best way to go, is he? How's the grind going? The grind is going great, man. Thanks for asking. He's streaming again, daily streams, going decently well. And after the stream, I'm gonna inform myself about how to make thumbnails. So we can that going as well, because thumbnails actually seem to make it very, very big. By the way, in case you're watching this on YouTube and you have any sort of feedback, or you on Twitch, right? Please let me know, right? In terms of streaming, in terms of gameplay, what you'd be interested in, I'd love to hear. Anyway, right? So Malrang is looking very hard onto top, and I can kind of understand, because bot lane you can't contest, mid is very unrealistic, at least the first play. They're going for top, but top is also not that easy, right? To get the kill, right? So that is good. And it can herald top side to really get Szygenda strong. But I feel like you're just in like, if you have to play this hard onto Gwen, I feel like you're just in a bad position. But then again, I'd reckon you're probably not in that good of a position in terms of transfer ready. I'm wondering if Janna was the correct pick, or if there's actually a better pick for you to get control, and that's why I said, is there right a poke option, right? Ooh, double cancel even. Oh. So that was what I was thinking about. Well, Yike, you're such an asshole, man. But other way, right? That's why I was wondering, is there any sort of poke option that cuts Kog'Maw enough for you actually to be in a good position? And otherwise, right, we're back into the idea of early Feli's pick is just not good. Of course, people are not respecting Kog'Maw as much of a pick, right? But due to having Kog'Maw, or rather Kog'Maw Braum even in their repertoire, is there even an answer that the Felis can have in terms of support? Because if there isn't, well, then I guess Felis is just not good of a pick. Surprise, surprise. I know it's fun for AD carry players, man. I know it's fun for you. But even if I just fucking see Jinx against it, man, Jinx still claps the Felis in a lot of cases. I mean, at least he's better than Xayah, right? At least he's better than Xayah. Yike is trying to take out their win condition topside as well, and he finds the kill. Well, that is a little bit of a problem. Now, because Yike is top, and you might be able to find a play towards bot, and Malrang might actually look for it. He's looking towards mid. I'm wondering if he actually looked towards mid, or if he actually just tried to like go very far around bot side. You come from behind, but then get spotted by a ward, so that he called off the play. Because I don't really see a reason why he should walk through mid. Okay, and they're just gonna charge it towards mid and half play this herald. I understand why Koi is doing that. Right, you could reckon that it's potentially not even that good of a play anyway. You could buy on someone to deny extra goal. But what else are you gonna do? Like, I feel like Koi's in such a bad game set, they really need to force. People need to understand that he's the current, like, the only real big player they have. They can play a little bit aggressive to bait Malrang to rotate to him, right? But he should really make sure that he is not the player they can find, right? And now we're slowly rotating into mid game. Rotating our bot onto mid section. And now we're back into the state we're always, like, in the state we're always, to the same state we're always talking about, right? And that is, do we get control of midsection? If we do, we go midsection. Otherwise, if we don't, with even man, how can we enable ourselves to get control of midsection? And a lot of times it is playing side lane first, right? So Malrang Advienne rotating onto side lane, enabling side, even trying to find like a play here as well, chunking top side to it, right? Understanding that side lane is one of the biggest win conditions. And then hopefully you can shift from there into mid. Right, hopefully you can. I reckon you're just gonna interbait topside again. You can maybe shift after this top lane wave as Koi onto mid, because without man advantage you're not gonna be in that good of a position. Oh! I think it's actually just like a graphic bug. Anyway. And here, like, we see the same thing, right? Koi very aggressively playing on the bot side and trying to push out there. But the problem that you have right now is, and I think that's something that G2 actually does quite smart here, is they're playing on the long side of Koi, on the long lane of Koi, right? So if you can't get midsection control, what do you need to do? Well, you need to play onto side into mid lane shift, right? That is how you can sort of contest midsection. And you want to contest midsection, right? Why? Because if G2 is allowed to get control of midsection, right, they can play towards your strong lane and deny that, right? So in case you don't do that ASAP, G2 is going to have the option to just play onto mid. Will have more options in general available to them because mid is the center of the map, obviously, right? And they can use that to actually get a shift towards your strong side of the map and then try to deny your plays. Because after minute 14, side and waves are still delayed, right? So playing mid into side is always going to be faster. So that is why Koi is so incentivized to play side lane first. And that is a lot easier if you have a long lane. Why is it a lot easier if you have a long lane? Because you have more time to shift, right? If both T1s are up, you can push out and then you can run, but they can easily answer, they can easily shift, right? It's harder for you to walk up, it's harder for you to look for potential catches the second G2 tries to reshift towards mid. And you also have less time to actually play onto mid, right? So G2 playing on the long lane of Koi is actually quite smart in my opinion, due to the fact that how do you really push out here? Like, you've got a T1 here, you really don't have a lot of time to shift. Now they get like one wave of control here. The G2 needs to respect his one timer. They can reset right now. The big advantage and a good thing that Koi actually did is they reset earlier, right? Because they reset earlier, they're first towards mid lane wave, right? Then hopefully Koi can instantly play this wave to regain control. But the problem they have is they don't know what Kha'Zix is until right now. And K'Sante had a shift, right? So you actually have to respect, and G2 wasn't even that delayed, right? It's good by G2 to delay this early, so you're at least not that far delayed. So it actually wasn't able to play the mid lane wave in time. You end up getting the mid lane turret, and as always, a front and back composition without mid lane turret is significantly weaker because you don't have something to fall back on. Especially in case there are options for you to get flanked. And K'Sante flanks usually are quite good, right? So now this becomes quite a lot scarier. Especially because there's an assassin on the side of G2 as well with Kha'Zix, right? And although Yike does not have R-Evolve. And what did Q-Evolve do at this point? Well, actually did help you kill topside a little bit. But I reckon R-Evolve also would have helped you kill it. It would have helped you kill Gwen, right? So a little bit of experience. I'm wondering if Gwen is itemizing Void Stuff right now already. Because number one, K'Sante, but secondly, because he anticipated Kog'Maw to already go Witsend. I'm wondering if that is why Szygenda already has Void Stuff because of the Witsend problem here. Because while Rabadance might be more damage early on, right? If you go Rabadance, it's a very expensive item, right? And you will still need to avoid stuff after. So if you have Rabadance and you start before Void Stuff, and then Kog'Maw hits Wits, and well, now you're kind of in a really bad position. Oh, G2's just starting it. G2's just starting it. G2 does not give a shit. I mean, what can I say? The game is pretty much over. The game is pretty much over. G2 in a very, very good position. If it's sort of two front and back compositions against each other, which it is a little bit this game, right? Whoever is ahead is in a significantly better position. Because whoever is ahead is usually the first, and that means the enemy team has to come to you, and usually you will end up getting man advantage, right? The G2 shifts on the side and tries to catch Larssen here. Szygenda tries to find a good fight out of it, but he's not able to get and kill in the end, and now, I mean, you just get 3 kills. You get a huge amount of objectives most likely. I think you can pick up this turret. If you want, you can pick up the inhib as well. Right side inhibs are quite good, and now you're just going to play mid into bot side. So there's also up in 3 minutes, which is decent soul. In this game, in my opinion, I feel like K'Sante partially Kog'Maw and Kha'Zix are actually quite happy about Cloud Soul, right? And some has a really easy time proccing Cloud Soul. Because you don't need to proactively use your ultimates a lot of times, right? And having the actual movement speed as an outranging champion against like soft engage, I feel like is actually quite good. As long as Jarvan is not able to hit his ult. And I feel like Cloud Soul actually gives Kog'Maw a lot more counterplay against Gwen than any other soul would. Maybe outside of Hexa because it's soul, right? But now you just play mid. Well, here you have to be a little bit careful, right? Because Koi really wants to look for an engage before the top lane minions come. Yeah, I love Assassins, what can I say? I feel like Assassins are so underrated. Especially if you have a like if you can decide that you pick a strong bot lane, Assassins are so good, right? Because Assassins now are actually able to just farm up early on. And that is great, man. That is great. That is fantastic. I'm not that sure about idolization on the side of Yike here. But maybe if there's an assassin player here, in, like in jungler here, that can tell me if the Kha'Zix itemization is good right now, because I sadly have not been playing for like 2 months. Which I might next split again, right? I feel like next split I might actually start, at least after my exam phase, right? So basically in a month I might start tryharding a little bit solo queue again, because I might have the time. And I really want to get Gladiator in 2v2. Like in a 2v2 mode, I really want to get Gladiator like the eyes rank. Which we gotta check out if that's gonna work out, because I have no mechanics. But I'm definitely up to support some good mechanical player. I just gotta play Ivan, man. I don't give a shit. I'm sorry if I'm not analyzing the game too much right now, but the game's over, right? We're just waiting for G2 to finish. Either way, what do we learn from this game? I feel like G2 actually did quite a nice job at setting up the map state for it to be very, very hard for Malrang to actually find plays, right? Which is part of the already draft, right? We saw the Nico pick, and we were already talking about it in draft. If you have Nico and it is Nico mid, you're kind of forced to actually get mid lane push, in my opinion. I feel like the way you counter Nico is getting mid lane push, which in one way is through Statics mid laners, right? And after the nerfs, I feel like some control mages can perform decently well, right? The problem that you have is in case Nico is a flex pick, right? So that is why Nico I think is really really OP, right? Is that even though she got nerfed in jungle, is if you have a Nico, right, and you pick a control mage answer to it, right, then a lot of AD picks that you would like to play with an AP jungle are usually quite good into control mages, right? So in case you're very skilled in them, one thing we actually saw Atletech do, which I think was quite good, is they picked Nico. I think they get counterpicked with Orianna, and then it just stopped Yasuo, which was interesting for Atletech. That it's an LFL 2 team, right? Second division of LFL. Because they even flexed Yasuo to AD carry as well, right? So their draft was really, really disgusting in a way, right? Maybe not uncounterable, definitely not, right? But playing against Nico Flex, most teams are not that good against, right? Playing against Yasuo in general, most teams are not good against, right? You don't see that a lot. And now these fuckers also flex Yasuo. Well, that is quite fun, right? That is quite great. Other picks are like Irelia partially, right? And if you can match that with a strong bot lane, like you to pick with Kog'Maw Braum, I think is great, right? And of course you could say Kog'Maw Braum is quite strong, but I feel like the bigger problem is the Aphelios blind pick. I feel like teams really need to start learning how to counter Aphelios, and if teams don't know how to counter Aphelios, well, now it turns out you're not allowed to blind pick Aphelios anymore, right? And we've been saying that for some time already, right? We've also been talking about potentially Draven. We're talking about Jinx, which people don't play, sadly. We've been talking about Kog'Maw, and I'm really, really happy that G2 actually ends up picking it. Afterwards, gameplay-related things, I mean, Malrang mostly forces towards top, but what else is he going to do? Threatening Nico is really hard, the champion is incredibly safe, and your Arzi doesn't get pushed, so you can't rotate with him. Your bot lane is also in a really, really horrible state, so Szygenda actually did not turn out to be that good of a champion for you here, because you still were not able to contest bot side, and then we're thinking about other champions, night champions that get control through having better push abilities or better skirmishing in bot, which I'm not that sure about what you pick against Braum. Because I don't think champions like Heimerdinger are good against Kog'Maw, because I feel like Kog'Maw just one-shots a turret with W. So I reckon that's not gonna be as good. Senna can't really contest, and then we're thinking a little bit into the direction of Karma's a dark champion. Can he potentially still go for it anyway? Maybe Soraka. Is Soraka a bit of a better champion? I'm not that sure about it either, right? But I think we're like all kind of sure about that you need to find something else here for bot lane. And that is why I also didn't mind just Jarvan locking, or locking Jarvan, because number one, Malrang is restricted in champion pool anyway most of the time, right? But giving your team more time to actually think about counters. Even though G2 already played it before, so you probably prepared counters, or rather you thought about counters. But if that is what you thought about, and that is what you tried out, then I think it's not going to be as good, right? And then we're back into the idea of, Well, G2 is inventing. How do you counter inventing? Well, you gotta get your bot lane into 2 versus 2 and you gotta find counters. And that is when we actually take away like one scrim block, and we're really gonna go into lane specific practice, and we're gonna find things that work out. And now then we also back to the idea of, well, it turns out inventing is really fucking good because Koi had no idea what to play against it, right? They had one pick and they had 2 picks time, 2 pick phases time, and a ban phase time to think about the support pick, and it still didn't work out. So where was the preparation wrong, right? Did they actually not have preparation about it? Did they not understand the matchup as well? And they thought Janna actually works out, right? What happened here, right? Because the way I look at it is, if G2 shows that they played this shit, you will need to invest time, if you're going to play against G2, to find counters to the strategy. Or you're going to put yourself in a position where they can't just easily go for it. Because it turns out they completely obliterated your bot lane and you weren't able to find any play against it. Right? You didn't find shit that worked out against it. The Yike pick against Nico didn't work out. The Janna pick didn't work out. And the problem, honestly, was the Aphelios early pick. Right? And then we're back into the idea of, can you pick Aphelios early? And in my opinion, on red side, you can, unless G2 does something like that. Right? And if the pick that is getting picked, lot R1, gets completely destroyed this hard by a specific bot lane duo, then I think you gotta change the way you approach draft a little bit, right? And that makes G2, I think, one of potentially the only scary team of the West against Eastern teams, because G2 actually goes for crazy stuff, and I love that. I love seeing that, even though Yike still played too much Malrang, right? Does anyone have any questions about that in chat? Any questions? Because I don't think we need to really summarize or look over gameplay related things. I think we talked a lot about that during the game, and I think that Koi actually did not have a lot of options. But in case you have any gameplay related questions, you can always ask me about that as well if you'd like. Any askers? Any questions? Any askers? It doesn't seem like there are any. So in case you have any questions later, you can of course always ask me as well. Otherwise, for the people joining on YouTube, check out the socials link below the stream. And in case you like this sort of content, check out the stream because we always do that live. So in case you have any questions or any input, you can always let me know there. Also, by the way, reviewing a lot of viewer recommendations. So in case you were there early in my stream, you can recommend a few games. And otherwise, on my Discord, there's a channel called Review Recommendation. Also, in case you're interested in coaching, until the 13th of July, I still got a coaching discount going on. So check that out. Instead of 25, up to 15 euros, which is a 10 euro discount, which is a pretty big amount. So check that out. And otherwise, I hope to see you lads in the next video or on stream. I hope you have a very, very nice day, and then see you guys. Bye-bye.